Going to take a quick look at the difference, or comparison, similarities. We're going to take a quick look at these two mandolins. Elkhorn F5 over here, a 2007 model that I've owned for about 12 years, and the Gilchrist mandolin over here, which is one of my personal favorite mandolins. I just compared it with my Gilchrist mandolin, but I'm here in my office in Los Alamos, and I have both these mandolins here. And I thought I would compare them, largely for my own purposes too, because it was fun to hear the Gilchrist and the Gilchrist coming out of the speakers, coming at me, and I heard different things than when I'm sitting here actually playing them. So that was a fun comparison for me. In this case, I feel like the Gilchrist and the Elkhorn are more similar mandolins than the Gilchrist and the Gilchrist. These two both have tone bars. They both have a traditional construction. This is probably an Adirondack spruce top. I'm not sure what the Gilchrist uses, but I do know that the Elkhorn is an Engelmann spruce top. But they both have tone bars. They both have pretty similar feeling chunkier necks. They have the same strings on them right now too, which are the Monels. I like Monels on the Elkhorn because it gives it I just like the sound of them on there. I've been through a lot of strings. I have a video on strings comparison on that Elkhorn mandolin, and I just ended up with the Monels. I just like them the best. But they both have the same strings, whereas the Gilchrist did not have the same string. It had phosphor bond strings. Oh, I'm just going to play a little bit here, and then I'm going to listen to it myself. And not really a better or worse here. I mean, just kind of in the throes of thinking about getting a top dollar mandolin like this one. And the more I play the ones that I have, I'm thinking, I don't know. I think I'm in good shape. So, but like I said, it was fun hearing the Gilchrist and the Gilchrist coming through the speakers, and I listened to it on the computer. I listened to it on the TV with the sound system. So, I heard different things when I was sitting there listening to it as opposed to playing it. So, it was kind of interesting for me. So we're gonna give these two a shot. This is not my best recording setup, but I used it for years, and it's pretty good. It's an AT24 mic going straight into the digital camera. So, anyway, let's see what we got here. Well, here's what I think about playing them. First of all, I think the Elkhorn sounds really, really good in comparison to Gilchrist, especially considering how much money I have into it and the emotional baggage that I have behind this mandolin and all that kind of thing. If you don't know, for instance, what it was, I first met this mandolin when it was being played at my son's funeral. And a friend of mine showed up to play music at the funeral and had this mandolin with him. And I know the builder of it personally because I went to school with him. And so a year and a half after that, I had the opportunity to get this mandolin and trade a guitar for it. So I ended up with no money, not having to put any money out. I had money in the guitar. So there's some emotional baggage on this mandolin. So I'm happy that it sounds good. Sitting here playing it, it's brighter and a little crisper. It's easier to play. I've got the Evo frets on here with the small Evo mandolin fret wire, and I am just not a big fan of big fret wire on a mandolin. I refretted the Gilchrist over here with big mandolin wire, or big wire, because the owner wanted that, and he had his reasons for wanting it. It was, his mandolin, he's a way better player than me, so I'm just, I'm going to do it. Now what I did is I put the bigger wire on the first 12 frets, and it still has the skinny wire up on the upper frets. But I noticed, going back and forth between these two, I noticed the feel of the big wire that I don't like quite as well. This is something I could probably get used to, but when I come back and forth, this Elkhorn just seems so slinky. And that's part of the reason why I like the smaller, thinner wire. It's just, some of it might be a visual thing to where I look down there and I see that big wire. And I think, you know, where am I going to put it? It looks like railroad ties to me. So, you know, it's just one of those things. But I do notice that I can't quite fret as clean on big wire as I can on skinnier wire. Small difference, you know, small difference. But it's just one of those things. So I feel like the Gilchrist has certainly got it's certainly a great sounding mandolin. It's, you know, sitting here playing it, maybe it's deeper, you know, there's something to it, to the tone that I can't quite describe. It's a woofier sound or something like that. I don't know. It's great. I mean, I could definitely have both of these mandolins. But I am impressed with how well the Elkhorn stands up to this. The necks are real similar. This mandolin is older than that one. They both have top seam splits. I've got a whole video on repairing the top seam split on this mandolin. It's about an hour and a half long video. But I commented on it that the Elkhorn has that same split. And the Elkhorn split same place from here clear up to here. And so I did that repair technique first on this Elkhorn. Now, I will say this about the Elkhorn. It's got a trick. Mario Prue and I talked about this mandolin a lot as to why that seam was splitting. Because when I would take the strings off of it, it would close up completely. And when I put strings on it, the seam would open up. And I thought, honestly, it'd be the other way around. I thought that the tension of the bridge pushing down would cause that seam to open. Mario said, no, what it's doing is it's trying to implode. So there's pressure going this way, trying to push that thing in there until it's splitting like an orange. So that makes perfect sense. It had a different tailpiece on it when I got it. And that tailpiece is one where the strings come off of the top like this, and they do in fact pull down. Whether that contributed to it or had no effect is a little bit debatable, because I did not do an A/B test. I did talk to Tom Ellis about it one time and showed him the mandolin. He did not think that the tailpiece was, he said it could be a complicating factor, meaning it probably did not cause a split, but it could have contributed to it after the split was started. So I thought that was, you know, that was a perfectly valid thing. Tom pointed out the fact that the radius on the top right here is different from both his mandolins and these other mandolins. And indeed, if you look at the radius on the Elkhorn here, it bulges a little bit early right here. So it comes up like this and bulges just a little bit sooner, and that could cause a stress point on that. But anyway, I fixed it up with the long split and long cleat. I put the long cleat in here using the cords to draw it in. I have the whole video on this. But the other thing that I did this mandolin after talking to Mario about it was I ran a carbon fiber rod from the neck block to the end block. And there was a hole drilled right here on the end piece that holds that carbon fiber rod. I put a set screw on here so that I can actually adjust the tension of the rod, and then I epoxied a magnet to the end of the set screw. The magnet to the end of the carbon fiber rod, so that when I remove the set screw, I can pull the carbon fiber rod out, because I lost it in the mandolin one time. And that was a lot of fun, trying to get it, you know, rod that long out of the mandolin through this little hole. It wouldn't come out through the F-holes, you know. All right, so this has a carbon fiber rod in it, which goes from the neck block to the end block and makes a support to help keep the mandolin from wanting to cave in. What that does is it frees up the top to vibrate. And I guarantee, I asked Mario about that, and I said, have you done this before? And he said, yeah, I built my first 7 mandolins with one of those. Okay. So I did that, and I swear, I think it made, you know, the mandolin sounded more open. It just sounded a little bit more lively after I got done with that. And of course, it's been 11 years since then, so it's very well broken in. I've never even touched it, but I will say that about this. It does have a little trick to it, and I do think that it made it more, like I said, more open sounding, freer sounding is what I want to say. The mandolin didn't sound quite as constrained. It freer, vibrates a little bit better. Very subtle thing. I don't have an AB on it, but okay. So I think this is a good comparison for me. I always like to compare, instruments when I get them in, so I can say, this Gilchrist is pretty much short of the Lord lore. This is this is it. You could go sideways on this thing. You could get Dudenbostels and you could get Ellis's, and I'm not sure if Collings, good Collings could match up to it. But, once you get to the top tier mandolins like this, then everything just goes sideways, and it's a matter of small variations and that sort of thing. And so it's fun to compare. Well, I would consider this probably a mid-range, the Elkhorn, a mid-range mandolin, because he's a smaller builder. This is only number 27, and I don't know what number this is on the Gilchrist. This is at least 100. 100 or 200 deep in Gilchrist. He's got it perfected by this point. So, it's a good comparison. It's a good comparison for me to hear. But I do think the Elkhorn's got some game, and I do think that it's probably squashed my mandolin acquisition syndrome. Yeah, I think it would take, for me to get another mandolin, it would have to be one that I played in person and just went nuts over. And there's been a few of those, very few of those in the past. This is one of them. I mean, this is one of my favorite mandolins. This individual mandolin, I really like this mandolin. I know the owner of it. We played a lot, and so this is a personal favorite mandolin right here. This is one of my standard mandolins. But I can remember two other mandolins in particular. One of them was a Dudenbostel. Back at Kaufman Camp one year, Lynn had two used Dudenbostel mandolins, and one of them was good, and the second one was just like, the gates of heaven opened up and the mandolins spoke. I mean, for me, that second mandolin was just jaw-droppingly good. For me. So I definitely remember that one. And then my daughter and I went to Nashville 2009. We were around all the stores, and Carter Vintage was not open yet then. Carter Vintage was not open, but we went to Groon and we went to Cotton. We played all the great mandolins that they had there. And we went to Gibson. We went to the Gibson factory outlet there. Gibson Sandbush. They had a Gibson Sandbush there that just, wow. It sounded like this though. It had that open sound to it. I don't know how to describe it, but I would say that my Chris shot is a tighter, more focused mandolin. It's a more focused sort of mandolin to me, and this one's more openy. Anyways, all I know is that Sam Bush model had that Sam Bush sound. It had that when Sam's playing that rhythm thing that I do there. Wow, that was a good mandolin. And then there was an Altman that really rang my bell. That was a really good mandolin. I really liked that. So three of them. The last one was they had a Gibson Master model there that was really good. It was a classic lore kind of sound, and not a characteristic sound, I would say. Like the Sam Bush model had a characteristic, unique sound to it. And the Dudenbostel sounded like an Ellis mandolin. When I hear the Ellis's today, good ones, really good ones, they're all good, but every now and then you get one that's like, yeah, it's been played a lot or whatever. The Dudenbostel was kind of like that. It was the clear, crisp, had everything mandolin. Well, that's a lot of talk about mandolins, but I do think the Elkhorn pretty good. So I think for me to get another mandolin at this point is just a thing that I want to do because I want to live with one. I don't think it's going to happen. It would have to be one of those special mandolins, one of those that Dudenbostel or that Sam Bush model or something like that. So, it's just a valuable comparison to me, and I think it's always good when you're thinking about an instrument to always compare whatever you're looking at to what you have. Never, ever go buy a guitar that's in a shop, in my humble opinion, that you haven't A-B'd your personal guitar with in that shop, because the shop is going to have different acoustics and just I would always A-B if I was going to replace it. If I was going to add the guitar to my collection, that's a different story, because then you're adding it and you're thinking, I might sell it later, I might do something with it. I'm going to live with it for a little while. But if you have to replace an instrument with an instrument, if I had to replace this with something else, I'm not sure I'd do it, because of the emotional baggage that I have on this mandolin, and the fact that it's a pretty good sounding mandolin. How good of a mandolin do I need? So, all right, anyway, let's talk to you later.